What's up, you guys? It's Jonno! Today I want to talk about some potential updates that might come to Pokemon Go. We pretty much know that these updates are coming, we just don't know what form they're coming in, but there have been all kinds of confirmations that breeding will be coming to Pokemon Go soon, so let's see what that might look like. I'm looking at an article here on Forbes. Now, if you guys know Forbes, they are a major news source, and they would not put their reputation on the line without having some very solid facts. So let's go ahead and see this. This photo right here is from Niantic Paul Tassi, which is very interesting. It's interesting to see who is Paul Tassi at Niantic and where did he release this photo. I'm not sure. I've actually seen this photo before I saw this article. This article is from a few days ago though, February 1st, 2017 at 10 a.m. So let's go ahead and check out this article just a little bit. You can see that they're showing the female Pikachu, the female Raichu that were accidentally released earlier a few weeks ago. So that's not the first time that they've accidentally released new updates. They released the Articuno accidentally and had to take Articuno away from those users. If you want to see that video, you can see it in my video history. It was right when the game first came out. They started putting in some stuff related to Ditto in the back end of the game, and somebody caught a Pidgey and it transformed into a Articuno, which was a glitch, and they had to take that Pokemon away. But she did record a video of putting the Articuno in a gym. So kind of interesting there, and this isn't the first time that they've accidentally released things. They accidentally released female Pikachu and female Raichu to the public and then took it away. Some people posted screenshots, so there's that as well. So how is this going to happen, you guys? Well, nobody really knows for sure, but there are some really interesting methods that people have said may be the way that we'll see breeding come out. So I want to move on to a next article. This is something that's actually really old. This was submitted 6 months ago on Reddit. I've actually done a video on this subject already, but I want to bring it back because, as you can see, this did get 2,000 comments, and there's just a lot of information here that's really robust. So let's hop on over to the article. So this is basically this person's rendition of what they think the Gen 2 and breeding and everything will look like when it comes to Pokemon Go. Now this user, I forget who this user is. It's actually a user, I forget who the user is. At some point people had speculated whether or not this person actually works for Niantic because they have really good screenshots of everything, and I'm not sure. It's submitted way by 6 months ago, and I was looking at this user and I couldn't find any information about him, whether or not he works at Google or anything like that, or Niantic or anything like that. So let's go ahead and just look at these images. So it says part 1, breeding. You can see we have our female Pidgeot and we have our male Pidgeot. That's just an edit, I'm sure, and just an edit of the name. And then let's see here, we've got the little hearts over here. You can see the hearts. So those two have hearts for each other, so obviously they will be available to breed. They will like each other, which signals they are candidates for breeding. You can see right here. So all Pokemon will be randomly awarded a gender, aside from a small number of exceptions. Pokemon will appear in the new Daycare tab, where they can be selected to breed. So Daycare would be a third tab next to your Eggs tab. And then we see walking certain distance with 2 breeding Pokemon as an empty egg slot has the chance for them to lay a specific egg. So we've got this special egg that they're showing down here, has a chance for them to lay a special egg. Alright, and then you get that special Pidgey out of the egg, which would be a higher IV Pidgey, generally a better Pidgey. So there we go. Breeding will be the first thing to be added. It will be mainly used as an effective way to farm for particular Pokemon candies in order to power up Pokemon. On most occasions, it won't be very helpful in terms of filling your Pokedex, as it can only be done by fully evolved adult Pokemon, unless you happen to encounter the adult stage of the Pokemon before encountering the lower evolutions. So there's that. Now let's move on to Pokemon, to part 2, babies. So here's how they basically are envisioning bringing babies to Generation 2 Pokemon Go. So here we go. Once a player has caught over 50 Pokemon and seen over 100 Pokemon in their original Pokedex, they are awarded a new Pokedex, which extends the Pokedex to number 251. Now we know that this part is definitely not going to happen because they basically just awarded the Pokedex with no with nothing. They didn't show us anything, no animation, no Professor Willow being like, hey Jonno, here's your new Pokedex, you're such a good trainer, now you've got new Pokedex, you know, entries. So they didn't do that, and basically they just unlocked the Pokedex once we hatched the eggs, so that's kind of interesting. So it says here, once the player's Pokedex has been upgraded, certain Pokemon will begin to give birth to new baby Pokemon. Certain Pokemon will lay eggs which hatch as these baby Pokemon. So we also know that that didn't happen, but it could happen in the future. I really wish they would have rolled out some kind of special something so that when we did the new babies, it wouldn't just be like, oh, mysteriously there's new entries in your Pokedex. Like, I would have really liked to have Professor Willow come out and say, here's what's happening, you know. So here we go, bringing Generation 2 to Pokemon Go. This is the evolutions portion. Once a player has gained access to the updated Pokedex and hatched a baby Pokemon, they unlock the next stage. Number of Pokemon will now have access to new evolutions. So we know that this is something that could happen. So here we go. We can see the metal coat right here, which is something that we know is coming to the game. Many of the new evolutions will require new items. These items have a chance to drop from Pokestops. They could also be in the shop, I'm sure, available for purchase. So that's one of those interesting things where we've already seen updates in the back end for for the items. So we've already seen this metal coat being released in the back end of the game, and it was speculated that the person who released this whole infographic was actually a Niantic employee, although I haven't found any confirmation of that, but that's the way it was explained to me when I actually read a different article that talked about this article, and it's how I found out about this article. I've known about this article for months and months and months, but we've all just been waiting months and months and months for anything about Generation 2 to come out, so it's really relevant again now because there's actually a metal coat that came out in the game back end, and we know that some of these things are actually coming. So once the item has been obtained, it can be used in conjunction with the candies to evolve particular Pokemon. Some of the stuff we know is coming, some of the stuff we know is not coming, just like this one, Pokemon Go starters. So let's go ahead and read this one. They're basically speculating how starters will come out. Once the player has obtained a baby, it's supposed to say both here. Once the player has obtained both a baby and an evolution, Professor Willow will make contact and congratulate them. At this point, the professor will offer the player a choice of 3 new starter Pokemon, just as he did when they first started. So this could still happen. We may still have this happen. I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen here, but basically Professor Willow could come out after you do your Espeon and Umbreon evolution, and he could say, hey, you've got a baby, you've got a new evolution, or if you did a Scyther, maybe you have a Scyther evolution, whatever you've got, and then he might say, now you can get a starter and let's do Generation 2. So I'm not sure though, because let's say they do Espeon and they do Umbreon for Valentine's Day. Well, it's not very likely that they're going to simultaneously drop all these evolution items at the same time. I mean, that's really not likely to happen. That would be like 2 events in one, and they barely like to do 1 event a month. So I don't think that that is likely for that to happen. I think more what we're waiting on is just for the Generation 2 starter to happen. That would be a lot more likely, and that would be probably an event after the Valentine's Day event. I think that they really are going to drip out Pokemon little bit by little bit, so we won't get any major release of any 100 Pokemon. I don't think that there's ever going to be a major release of any 100 Pokemon. I think we're going to get them little bit by little. Now, there may be a bigger release of maybe like 80 Pokemon or something like that. You know, we may eventually get all of Generation 2 spawning on the map, but I think we're going to get these little miniature events that give us little bits at a time. So we'll get Espeon, Umbreon for Valentine's Day. We'll probably get Steelix, Scyther, Scizor, Blissey, all those other evolutions, probably sometime closer to summer, I would think. It goes February and then March, and there's St. Patrick's Day for March. That's not really like a big holiday, but it kind of is, but everybody goes to work that day, so I'm not sure if that's going to be a major holiday that they do anything for. I mean, obviously there's green Pokemon. They could do Politoed for St. Patrick's Day. We could get a Politoed evolution because he's green. So there's certain things that we may see for the holidays, but I definitely do not think that we're ever going to see a full release of 100 Pokemon or even like 80 something Pokemon, not to kick off the event. I think we may get little drips and little drips and little drips, and then finally we may get a big rush of new Pokemon around the 1 year mark, but I'm not predicting a full Generation 2 release of Generation 2 until the 1 year mark, until July of 2017. I think we still have another 4 months until we see a full Generation 2 release with Generation 2 being capturable on the map. That's my prediction. I just happen to think that because I know the way that business works and I know the way that big companies in the mobile sphere release products, and also based on the way that they've already been releasing the products for this game. They've been drip releasing pretty much everything aside from the initial game. Everything else has been really small updates, really incremental updates, and I think they're going to continue on that path because that's a very standardized business model for all mobile games. Clash of Clans never does a huge release like that, except every once in a while. They did like Town Hall 11 release. That was a really big release for Clash of Clans. But same thing with Clash Royale. They give you 4 cards a month. They have small incremental releases all the time, but they rarely have really big releases that change the game significantly. And I think that's what we can expect from Pokemon Go, just in terms of mobile product development. So that's my prediction, you guys. I know it's not the best prediction. I know everybody wants to see a full Gen 2 release, but I really don't think we're going to see that because of the way that mobile businesses release their products. I just don't think it's likely, and I think that there's precedent to prove what I'm saying based on what we've already seen. So I hope you guys found this informative. It's just a little bit of talk about breeding, a little bit of talk about what's coming in Pokemon Go, and some more talk about other things that have been speculated for a long time. This article has been around since July 28th. You can see right here, July 28th is when this came out, very short after the Pokemon Go app actually came out. So you can see people, as even in the first month of Generation 1 coming out, people were already starting to talk about Generation 2, and I really think that the hype train got started way too soon on Generation 2. All of these people trying to be the first to market and trying to talk about what's next first basically jumped the shark, and they started talking about Generation 2 so much earlier than it needed to be talked about, and everybody's been so hyped for Gen 2 that people barely even want to play Gen 1, and it's actually kind of frustrating for me because I see all the clickbait, and it's been clickbait since like 6 months ago, and everybody is just on it with this Generation 2 thing, and it's like, you guys just enjoy Generation 1. I'm enjoying Generation 1. I still haven't caught Lapras. I still haven't caught Porygon. I still haven't caught Aerodactyl. I've got a ton of Pokemon that I need to catch wild. I still haven't caught Blastoise. I haven't caught a ton of Pokemon wild. So I'm convinced that people just need to calm down, let these updates come at the speed that they come. They're not going to come fast. I really don't think they're going to come fast, and I think that we have proof to solidify that they are not going to come fast, and we should all just exercise some patience, enjoy the game that we have to play right now, enjoy it for what it is, find interesting ways to make it more interesting, and when an update comes out, then we can get really hyped for the actual update. But yeah, I'm just sick of everything about, oh, Generation 2 is coming. It's like, you guys, people have been literally have been saying Generation 2 is coming since July, since the month that the game was launched. They've been talking about Generation 2. It just jumped the shark way too much in terms of talking about Generation 2 too early. So yeah, that's my opinion. All right, you guys, that was a long video. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks to my amazing subscribers. I hope you guys found this informative, and let me know if you think my predictions are wrong down in the comments, or if you think I'm right too. Thanks everybody again, and peace.